Well, in the last class, we have discussed about the leasing condition. That is a threshold point where we can expect your stimulated emission is going to start. Next, we can see what could be the external quantum efficiency. External means the number of photons we are getting out of the recombination. Means out of how many electron hole recombinations are taking place, out of that, how many photons we are getting. That is the measure of external quantum. It is called external because we are getting the output of this recombination process as photons. So net how many photons we are getting because of this recombination, electron hole recombinations. So that can be measured by this parameter. So that is given by this equation here. So external quantum efficiency zeta ext depends on the threshold, the difference between the absorption coefficient and the threshold gain multiplied by internal quantum efficiency. This value you have to remember. This will not be given normally in the numericals as a part of numericals. So internal quantum efficiency, if it is required when you are going to deal with the numericals, you always take the value between this range 0 0.6 to 0 0.7. Either you take 0.6 or 0.7 or in between them. So typical value of this external quantum efficiency for the standard semiconductor laser is between 15 to 20% range. So if you take this internal quantum efficiency, this range with the given these values, normally you will get the external quantum efficiency in this range, 15 to 20% range. This also I suggest you to remember. This is quite useful so in solving the numericals. So suppose if he will be giving you all the things and you will be assuming the internal quantum efficiency in the range 0.6 to 0.7, and if he is asking you to find out external differential or quantum efficiency, your answer should be in this range. So it is going to verify whether you got the correct answer or not. So these two values, you just I suggest you to remember these two along with the formula. Next comes to the resonant frequencies, corresponds to the frequencies of the sorry resonant frequencies corresponds to the frequencies of the modes modes of the laser. So we have seen in the discussion of the operation, no? So whatever the dominant modes or the wavelengths which will occur above the threshold by the gain loss mechanism, whatever the modes which will exist beyond that thresholding level. So 1 minute. Yeah. So we are talking about the frequencies of those modes. So their frequencies are given are related with the mode number of modes m, that is equal to 2L into NV by C. How we are getting this? So at the thresholding lasing condition, we have this relation in the e to the power of minus j omega t minus beta z. From that one, if you take that term here, 2 beta L equal to 2 pi m. So where is the propagation constant given by the relation 2 pi m by lambda, where m is an integer given by 2L into n by lambda. And if we substitute c equal to v into lambda, we'll get the lambda equation like this. By making use of all these things, you will get the equation for the m, that is the number of modes, m equal to 2L into nv by c. So this equation you have to remember along with this the starting lasing condition 2 beta L equal to 2 pi m. So gain in any laser is a function of the frequency, gain loss mechanism. So this gain is related with the mode. So whenever we are talking about the modes or modes are existing means the gain, we are talking about the gain. So gain concerned with the modes only, which will exist beyond the threshold, and they are going to compensate for the loss because of those modes which will exist below the threshold. For a Gaussian output, the gain and frequency are related by this equation, g of lambda equal to g of 0. So the gain when the no modes will be there, e to the power of this. So delta lambda, the difference between lambda minus lambda naught, that is square divided by 2 sigma square. So this one and equation B and C are very much relevant in solving the equations. So sigma is the spectral width of the gain. So let us take the some more steps here to find the frequency spacing between successive modes. That is modes of frequency Vm minus 1 and Vm using the equation B. This one Vm and Vm minus 1 is taking. We'll get m minus 1 equal to 2, this equation only, m minus 1 equal to same equation B only we are using, m minus 1 equal to 2ln by c Vm minus 1 for Vm minus 1. Similarly, for Vm, m equal to 2ln c by V using equation this only. So this V we are going to manipulate. V for V1, M1, Vm minus 1, m minus 1 like that. So subtracting the above equations, what we are getting, m minus 1, you can subtract so that we'll get the positive value, that is m minus, so m got cancelled, like that you have to get. So this minus this, if you get manipulate it, finally what you are getting, this you call it as a delta V, a change in the frequencies of the two modes, slight change in the frequencies of the two modes, that is 1 equal to 2ln into delta V by C, or delta V, that is the frequency spacing between the two successive modes is given in terms of the C by 2ln. Similarly, the wavelength uh, spacing uh, that will be given delta lambda using the relation between V and lambda. So this one, we can use this relation between lambda and V. You will get it as lambda square by 2ln. So these two things you have to remember along with these equations B and C. Let's take an example. A gallium arsenide laser operating at 850 nanometer, that is a nanometer technology, standard technology they have given, has 500 micrometer length, L is given, and refractive index is 3.7. What are the frequency and wavelength spacings? So these are the frequency and wavelength spacing formulas, very simple. Frequency spacing means delta V equal to C by 2ln. C by 2, C we know the velocity of C by 2ln. Okay. So L is given 500 micrometer length, N the refractive index 3.7. If you substitute that, you will get it as around 81 gigahertz. Similarly, the wavelength spacing, lambda square by 2ln, L is again 500 micrometer, N is 3.7. So in the numerator, you got lambda square, that is 850 nanometer wavelength, operating wavelength is given. That you can substitute, you will get it as around 0.2 nanometer. So I suggest you to also you to calculate this one, and if majority of majority if you are getting a different answer, you can please quote it in the WhatsApp group so that I can correct it here. So another one is asking, if the half power point lambda minus lambda naught 2 nanometer is given, what is the spectral width lambda sigma of the gain? So he's asking you to find out this one. You have to use equation number C. So this lambda minus lambda naught is given, and g of 0 is given. He is asking you to find out sigma, that is spectral width of the gain. You have to make use of equation C here. So if you resolve this, you will get sigma as 1.7. So this is a very simple, that's why I not shown any steps here, direct substitution problem is given. So another example, so consider double heterostructure edge emitting fibroperot aluminum gallium arsenide laser, which emits at 900 nanometer. So operating wavelength lambda is given 900 nanometer. The laser chip is 300 micrometer long, that is L, and refractive index, that is N 4.3. Then find the number of half wavelengths expanding in the region between fibroperot mirror surfaces. Also find the spacing between the spacing modes, that is delta lambda or delta V, whatever. So he is finding delta lambda, that is lambda square by 2L. Okay. So before that, by using the equation m equal to, so this one, 2ln by c Vm. So we are getting the value of m. L is given, n is given, c is given. So you will be getting the m value 286, 2866 modes are there. And delta lambda, it is given 0.3 nanometer. Sorry, delta lambda you are getting from this one. So that's all. He is asking you to find out the number of modes here and the number of half wavelength spanning in this region, the number of modes. So the problems are very simple. You have to remember the correct formulas, substitute the values after identifying them correctly, and use the calculator properly, and the end final correct results you are getting, and never forget to write the end units. So this all about the lasers we are going to end up today. So we discussed about two variations of LED, uh, surface emitter and edge emitter LEDs. And laser, we gone through two variations again there that we have seen the last session. So next we can see the photo detectors. Photo detector normally works on the principle of optical absorption. You can see here. So this is very important, guys. The operating principle of the LED is spontaneous emission. Remember, the operating principle of the laser. Remember, stimulated emission. Actually, laser works on the both. Only at the lasing condition, your stimulated emission will started coming into picture. Before that, it is working on the spontaneous emission itself, not stimulated. Okay. And photodetector. Remember one more thing. Now we are jumping into the discussion of devices which are used in the receiver side. Till now, we have seen two devices, LEDs and lasers, are photo sources. They are the sources of the photons used at the transmitter side. They are emitting the photons. Okay. One LED based on the spontaneous emission, another one laser which is based on the both actually, if you want to tell spontaneous and stimulated emissions. Now we are discussing about the photo detectors which are actually used on the receiver side, which are going to absorb the photons, not going to emit. Try to understand here the main difference between the photo generators that we discussed, LEDs and lasers. They are going to generate, emit the photons. Now we are discussing the photo detectors which are used at the receiver side. They are meant for absorbing the photons, what emitted from the generators at the transmitter side. Okay. Now these are working on the principle of, that's why it is called absorption, not emission. So this under this category photo detector, we got two variations again: pin photodiode and avalanche photodiode. That is also known as a RAPD. What is RAPD? We'll see later. So let us see the first the structural part of this pin photodiode. So here you can see I is there. It is visible. I, it is denoted. So, first of all, you draw this diagram. Okay, you draw this diagram, and you have to uh, Start with telling that photodetector is a device used at the receiver side for the absorption of the photons. Hence, it works on the principle of the optical absorption. As shown in the figure, it consists of three prominent layers: P plus, N plus, and I layer. Based on these three layers, P, I, and N layers, it is called pin photodiode. Because I, it will indicate intrinsic layer, that is a middle layer, sandwiched between two outermost layers, P plus and N plus layers. This is how you have to begin explaining the constructional details of the diode, pin photodiode. So remember one thing, diode is different from the diode, pin diode. Means what I want to tell, pin photodiode is different from the pin diode. Okay, pin diode normally I think you might have learned in the microwaves. That is different from this pin photodiode. So this is differentiated by having a large intrinsic layer. So these are called P plus and N plus because of their high doping profile. Because of that higher doping profile, their resistivity is very much less. That will be around or maybe less than 1 ohm. You can see their resistivity is very much less, high because of their high doping profile, and hence their conductivity is very much larger. Resistivity is very much less, that is less than around 1 ohm. Hence, it will enhance their conductivity property. Moreover, the middle I layer is lightly doped, hence resistivity is very much larger, that is 10 ohm to 100 kilo ohm per centimeter. That is going to range between this range. Its conductivity is very much less. Hence, it is going to provide large depletion area. And of course, it is required because here itself your HV photons, you can see the arrow market is shown, the photon will be absorbed. This is acting like an absorption layer. We want more absorption area to absorb more photons. Okay, so that's why this intrinsic layer, it is acting like a depletion layer. It is meant for absorbing more photons, and we are keeping it more larger uh, by larger resistivity or less conductivity. Remember, these aspects are very much important. So what are the things you have to explain as a part of construction? P plus and N plus layers, which are the outermost layers, or I layer, which is sandwiched between these two layers. P plus and N plus layers having the higher doping profiles, large impurities are added, which is going to increase its conductivity. Hence, it is going to keep its resistivity less than or maybe around 1 ohm. Okay. So middle layer, intrinsic layer will be kept larger, and it is meant for absorbing the photons which is falling on this. Okay, where the photons are falling. So on this your the lens, the whatever the LED or laser through optical fiber it is coming now, it will be connected here through the lens. Photons are falling here. So this intrinsic layer is acting like a large area which is going to absorb more photons, large depletion area. Okay. So hence the large depletion area will be provided. So it is something like this. Now next we are going to jump into the okay photo current and photo carriers. We'll see now as a part of the operation. If we look at this one, just drawn this one some sketches, we can easily understand this. Let us try to understand the operational aspect. Then normally the P, I and N layers, okay, if it is in the forward bias mode, okay, now I have connected in the reverse. Let us assume that it is not biased or it is kept in the forward bias. If it is not biased, means no battery terminals are connected. In that case, we have the very small depletion region existing between I and N plus layer. Okay. Yes. So here P plus is actually made up of indium aluminum arsenide composite structure. N plus made up of indium phosphate, sorry, phosphorus. And intrinsic layer is made up of indium gallium arsenide layer. This also I suggest you to include it here. I not mentioned here as a part of the structure. Now coming to the operational part. So when not biasing is done, I mean no battery terminals are applied, there is a small depletion region exists between the I layer and N plus layer. Because of the small depletion region, so ಇಷ್ಟು ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ intrinsic layer. So large current will start flowing. That's why it is stored photocurrent. Large photocurrent will start flowing. Something like if you look at this one, so it is going to act like in absence of light, pin photodiode behaves like electrically just like an ordinary rectifier diode, conducting large amount of current here. So when no biasing is applied or small forward bias is applied, it is going to conduct because P is connected to positive, N is connected to negative. If you are talking about forward bias or if you are not biased, small depletion region will be existing, conducting large photocurrent. Okay, not photo carriers. This all about what is happening when forward bias or no biasing is applied. Means majority of the photocurrent you are getting not because of the photon. Suppose if now if I will make the lens here, just draw the lens. So lens is something like this. Okay, lens mouth will be kept here and your photons are falling here. This is the intrinsic layer where your photons are falling here, and as large photon current is already flowing, this the carrier because of the photons will not make any sense because of the small depletion reason. Because of the small depletion reason, forward biasing condition, majority of the current is controlled by the majority carriers. Try to understand here. Okay. So try to understand. This pin diode is going to actually operate in two modes. Forward bias mode, what it is happening now we are focusing. In unbiased or forward bias condition, because of the small depletion reason, most of the current, that is photo current, is contributed by the majority carriers. We all know this. It is acting like a normal rectifier diode. And some current is also contributed by the photons, which is absorbed by this intrinsic layer, that is very much less. Okay. Now what we want more current contributed by the photons to be absorbed by this. For that, we have to increase this depletion region. We have to increase this depletion region from this to, so from this width to up to this width. We have to make the depletion width this much large so that we can let more photons to be absorbed. More photon to be, because in order to absorb more photons, we want more depletion region, isn't it? So we have to widen this depletion region. That is very short in case of forward bias or unbiased condition. So in order to widen this, we have to connect anode to the negative and cathode. A node which is connected to P plus should be connected to negative, N plus should be connected to positive. This is going to drag your smaller depletion region. Let this I layer, intrinsic layer or depletion layer to be got larger, so that let more photons to be absorbed. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, forward bias condition ಆಗಿ because of the smaller depletion region we are not getting sufficient absorption, less number of photons will be absorbed in that case, hence less contribution of the photocarriers or photons, less contribution of the current by the photons because less photons are absorbed. So how we can increase this more absorption by the photons? We have to enlarge this depletion region so that we can catch more photons, absorb more photons, so that we will get the more contribution in the current by these photons. Okay. So very important point here is that as we are increasing this depletion region by keeping it in the reverse bias mode like this, so this depletion or intrinsic layer is acting like a capacitance. Okay, because in the reverse bias mode, very less current is flowing. Two currents are flowing. Remember, all of you listen here carefully. In the reverse bias mode, two currents are flowing. In forward bias mode, only one current is flowing. So there also two currents are flowing. In forward bias mode, one current that is flowing is because of the majority carriers, because of the forward bias condition. Another current that is flowing is because of the small number of photons which are absorbed by the intrinsic or depletion layer. Why small number of photons? Because depletion region is very small because of the forward bias condition. Means that what we can conclude in the forward bias condition, the current contributed by the majority carriers is more as compared with the current contributed by the photons. This we can conclude in the forward bias condition. Hence, what will happen in the reverse bias? Because of the reverse bias condition, the one current that we are getting is because of the minority carriers. Another current what we are getting is because of the photons. Now, as the photon absorption is more because of the increased depletion region, we are getting more contribution of the current by the photons as compared with the forward bias. Hence, we are getting more photocurrent as compared with the forward bias. We want more photocurrent, current contributed by the photons. We want more photons to be detected, not less photons. Means at the end of the day, we want more current to be contributed by the photons, not by the carriers. Means in reverse bias condition, we are getting more contribution of the current by the photons. Understanding? So the important thing what you have to observe here is that this depletion region capacitance will be less. Okay, so you know the relation between depletion region width and capacitance, that is C equal to epsilon what is that one, area, sorry, 1 minute, epsilon by d, epsilon a area cross section by d, C inversely proportional to d here. Can see C capacitance, as the width of the depletion region increases, capacitance decreases. This is very important. There is no any leakage. Understanding? Means we prefer to operate the pin diode in the reverse bias mode because it increases the light absorbing region, that is depletion or intrinsic layer region, so that we can get more photon to be absorbed and more photon current we are getting. Moreover, increase in depletion region will not result into what you can say parasitic or leakage capacitance, because the distance d will increase between these two plates, capacitance will decrease. This is very important. That's why you can see the intrinsic layer is doped in such a way that it can induce less conductivity or more resistivity provided with larger depletion region. Understanding? So this is very important point we are expecting in the part of the answer here. So if you look at this CAT6, on an average, the charge carriers move a distance of Ln or Lp known as diffusion length. So here, the charge carriers which are moving in this N region of width N, maybe L here, that is Ln. The charge carriers which are moving in the P region, P plus region, assume that they are transversing Lp length. That is known as the diffusion length. Okay. Means here intrinsic layer is acting like a photon absorption layer. And what P plus N plus layers they are doing? They are acting like a good conductors. Their conductivity is very high because the resistivity is very much less. The time taken by the electron or hole to recombine is called carrier lifetime, indicated by tau n or tau p. So that is given the relationship between the carrier lifetime and the diffusion length by these two equations. Ln is the length of this n plus the region equal to dn, it will indicate the diffusion of the carriers in the n. Tau n, it will indicate the carrier lifetime in the n region. So this is the relationship that will exist between the length of the particular region, diffusion in the particular region, and carrier lifetime in the particular region. This is very important relation. L equal to d tau, square root of d tau. It may be n or p, whatever. Okay. So that's how you can see the power will go on decreasing initially from P of 0 to P of W. So when you reverse bias, it will start getting more power, more photon current. So that's why you can see forward bias region is similar to the photovoltaic mode. That is, a pin diode is going to operate at two modes. Forward bias region, if you operate it, you can see there less photons are absorbed. Majority of the current is controlled by the uh, major carriers, majority carriers. In that case, it is acting like a photovoltaic diode. PN diode is acting like a photovoltaic diode. So that is a reason one. Reason two is a reverse bias mode. Here it is acting like a photoconductive mode, increase in optical power. And the third reason is a avalanche breakdown mode that we normally not operate. So PIN diode is normally operated in two modes. Photo bias mode, it is acting like a photovoltaic mode. Means most of the current is contributed most of the current is contributed by the not photons but by the carriers. That is a photovoltaic. That's what is known as a voltaic voltage. Majority of the carriers, less photons. Photoconductive. So most of the conduction is happening because of the photon. That's what is known as a photoconductive mode. That is happening in the reverse bias mode. Understanding? So this photoconductive mode is given by this I diode equal to ID plus IS. So these are some of the CAD6 that we'll see in the next session. That is responsivity. This one you are observing, cutoff wavelength, and some more things with the numericals. Stop now.